There's one thing that I see in the difference between me and other people that some people, they wait for the perfect moment, they tippy toe through life, and I never did. I always followed a deeper inner knowing and took leaps. When my intuition would speak, I would listen, even if it did not make any sense. And everyone around me, they thought I was crazy. But that voice inside of me has literally taken me across oceans, through heartbreaks, into rebirths, and eventually right here. And this is the story of how I learned to trust that voice and how to trust yourself, how trust can change everything. So, when I was 21, I took my first real leap and I booked a trip to the Caribbean, my first long haul flight, uh, big adventure with my mom, my grandma, and a friend. And only for 2 weeks we supposed to be there. But once I arrived, I knew that I could not leave. And the island felt alive. I was in love with the climate, the colors, the vibes. And I told them, like, hey, I'm staying. I'm not flying back with you guys. And I was around 20 years old. Eventually, I stayed for 3 months. And that's an example of how I trusted my gut instinct and said yes. And within a few days, I found a job as a live in nanny. I bought a few essentials and I settled into the island life. Once you make a decision, more things can unfold. That was really my biggest takeaway from that. And that's how I've always made decisions. It's like a nudge, a whisper, an opportunity. And instead of overthinking, I would feel whether it's a yes or a no, and I would leap. Like the time that I got a random call, people, a company inviting me to the Maldives. They wanted me to be part salsa dance instructor and part manager of a private yacht. And it made no sense, but my intuition was pretty clear and I chose to go. And just like that, I was dancing on a deck under the stars, celebrating New Year's Eve, surrounded by turquoise water. And I felt completely in flow with my life. I felt so blessed. And those moments taught me something sacred that when you say yes to your intuition, life can expand in ways that the mind can never plan. So my courage wasn't learned only in adulthood. I believe that it began much earlier. Because when I was 6 years old, I went to the hospital for a simple tonsil surgery. And what was supposed to be routine turned into a near death experience. That night, I started vomiting blood, my blood pressure dropped, the nurses were called, the alarms went off, and the doctors rushed me back into the emergency room. And I remember seeing instruments going in my throat, seeing the operation. And to this day, I can't say if I was half awake or that I already had left my body. And I felt myself floating. There was like a calmness, a light, a presence, something beyond this world. And when I woke up, I wasn't the same little girl anymore. My mother told me that that changed me. And I always told her that I wanted to go back to the lady and her child. And my mom would affirm me, it's not your time yet. I'm your earthly mother. You're staying here. And I would ask my dad to give me his little cards that had Maria and baby Jesus on it. And I would hang that next to my bed as if I've seen something different, another realm, something sacred, eternal. And since then, I never quite lived the same way. Like, I felt protected, I felt guided. And I've carried that knowing ever since. Um, in life, I've lost a lot. I've lost homes, businesses, loved ones, the version of myself, and I had to rebuild from scratch again and again. But through it all, I always stayed curious. I wanted to see the world, to meet people, and to taste life fully. And I've changed countries a lot. I switched careers a lot. I followed passion after passion, and not because I was lost, I want to say because I was alive. And intuition has a funny way of breaking logic open because it doesn't care about comfort. It cares about evolution. And I never regret taking one single leap, even that I burned myself many times. And of course, following your gut isn't always freedom and sunsets. There were times I jumped and landed hard, moments that I questioned my worth, my direction, and my strength. But rather than stumbling forward, then still stand still in fear. I mean, failure isn't about failing, it's about feeling. And I've always been willing to feel it all, the heartbreak, the uncertainty, but also the beauty. And I believe that's what makes us human. That's what makes us grow, don't you think? Like, looking back, I see how much that freedom came from my upbringing. My parents never boxed me in. They let me explore, change jobs, express myself through wild hairstyles that I had, bold clothes, and spontaneous decisions. And they didn't tell me what to do, they let me find it. And they would course correct. And that was the greatest gift. And through that freedom, I learned that mistakes weren't failures, they were redirections. Every wrong turn was just life showing me a new path. Not everyone grew up with that kind of permission. I know that. And many of you listening were told to be quiet, to stay small, to be good instead of authentic. But your truth, your real voice, it never disappears. It just waits. And when you finally start listening, it will shake your world awake. Let that sink in for a moment. For me, healing wasn't new. It was in my blood, I guess. My mom practiced holistic healing at home, offering energy sessions and channeling messages from spirits. And people whispered about her behind her back. Don't get me wrong, they called her a little witch. But I saw magic, I saw power. And when I was out of balance, she would clear my energy. When I was lost, she would channel messages that brought me back to center. And she taught me that healing isn't about fixing, it is about remembering who you are. And still, for years, I didn't think that path was for me. I was a professional dancer, not a healer. They're two worlds apart. But at 21, I did took my first Reiki certification out of curiosity. And then I let it on the shelf. It wasn't until my 30s, after heartbreaks and transitions, that I felt that call again. And I got certified in pranic healing. And I started practicing quietly, helping out friends, but never saw it as a career. Until life intervened. And it was not only for me, that was for everyone because it was when the pandemic hit. And in 2019, my dance career ended overnight when the world shut down, or 2020 it was. No more performances, no more classes, no more travel. And in that stillness, I believe something ancient woke up inside of me. And it says, whispering, it is time. It is time to stop performing and start serving in a different way, to stop entertaining and start transforming. And to use everything that I've learned, every fall, every leap, every heartbreak to help others rise. And that was the birth of my work, guiding women to heal and rebuild and return home to themselves. And in that moment, everything made sense. Like that little girl who saw another world at 6, the dancer who followed her intuition, and the women who rebuild again and again, like it all connected. And nothing was wasted. Every experience prepared me for this. My story isn't about luck or timing. I believe it's about trust. Trusting the voice within you, that knows before your mind can explain. The one that whispers go, even when logic says stay. And you don't need to have to figure it all out. You just need to take the next yes. Because every yes brings you closer to your truth. And maybe your leap is small, like it could be a new job, a move, a conversation. Maybe it's big, like walking away from a relationship or something else that no longer fits. But whatever it is, remember this: life rewards the brave, and your intuition is never wrong. This is a Cinderella story with a twist, because sometimes the real magic happens not when the fairy godmother appears, but when you decide to believe in your own power. Now, if this story has touched something in you, and please share it with me or someone else who needs that reminder that courage and intuition can rewrite any story. So join me next time as we continue exploring the real, raw, and mystical moments that shape who we become. Because your transformation isn't a fairy tale, it's your truth unfolding. Thank you.